Hello GameMaker developers, welcome to another GM update, coming to you from GameMaker's headquarters in Dundee, Scotland. For those who don't know me, I'm Russell Kay, Senior Product Director and Head of GameMaker. Today we're going to update you on all things GameMaker, talk a little bit about what we have planned for GameMaker in 2023. But first, let's have a recap on some of the amazing things that came to GameMaker in 2022. Every month, we release a new free asset bundle, which can include sprites, tilesets, music, and/or sound effects. These assets can be used any way you like, and we've covered a wide range of genres and styles so that there's something for everyone. Currently, the latest bundle's free for everyone, and only subscribers are able to access the back catalogue. But later this year, we'll be making a slight change to how this works and opening up some of the older bundles to all users. More information will be available soon. We've also released a couple of game templates, Windy Woods and Tower V Monsters, which give you the basics for a full game that you can modify to your own use. These give you an insight into how to create different game types within GameMaker, and give users a springboard to change the project to their needs. Learning how to build games on the way. More templates are set to release later this year. Over the course of 2022, we made many much-needed behind-the-scenes changes to GameMaker. We updated from .NET Framework to .NET 6, which improves performance and brings us in line with the improved standards and abilities of .NET Core, which is the successor to .NET Framework. We also updated our graphics rendering, which has improved GPU performance and gives us more abilities within the IDE. We made some changes to the way project serialization works, speeding up project-wide operations and improving compile times. All of these changes have been made with the future of GameMaker in mind, and they put us in a great place to support the continued expansion of GameMaker's capabilities. In Q3 2022, we released a beta version and open-sourced our new 3D 2D tool. This allows you to easily take animated 3D models and export them into 2D sprites that can be used within GameMaker. This has given a sandbox for testing new graphical features and a pipeline for implementing them. More updates to the 3D 2D tool are planned for 2023. We launched our long-term stable LTS version last year to give those users that rely on a stability and supported platform to build their games on. Last year saw an immense number of changes to GameMaker, so we'll not go into depth on these and only name a few. Video playback was added to all platforms, allowing users to display full-screen video or render it to surface for use within their games. Feather is our updated IntelliSense tool that gives more contextual information to users as they make their game. Set it to check your code and offer solutions to the problems it identifies. Audio effects. Give users flexibility on how audio is manipulated, so that runtime effects can be added to make your game feel deeper and more interactive. We open sourced many parts of the GameMaker ecosystem in the last year. Starting with our extensions, we've been open sourcing new components as well as revising older extensions and open sourcing them as we go. Our HTML5 runner is also now open sourced. This is the repo that we use, so you can see us working on new features as we build them. See bug fixes as they happen and how the code is implemented. You can even make changes and submit your own. We ran 3 game jams in 2022 and the quality of submissions was extraordinary. The multiplayer GX game jam showcased the power of our hot-off-the-press multiplayer code, while the New Year New Jam produced some of the best submissions we've ever seen. The GX mobile game jam was won by Run Bun Bun Run, which is now the official offline mobile game of the Opera GX web browser. In 2022, we hosted 3 important game events, starting with the annual GameMaker Awards. After thousands of votes from the community, Revita was crowned the best game of 2022, and Heartbound was chosen as the most anticipated game. We also introduced a brand new category, Best of GX Games, won by Super Raftbo. Over the summer, we hosted 2 Spotlight Weeks. The first was Brazil Week, celebration of the quality and variety of games originating from one of our fast-growing GameMaker communities. Later in the year, we also showcased the talented women within the GameMaker community through a series of interviews and blogs highlighting their work and the contributions they make to the world of game development. took a group of GameMaker developers on the road with a presence of Gamescom in Cologne, Germany, and the Brazil Gaming Show in Sao Paulo. It was amazing to see thousands of attendees trying out their games and learning more about GameMaker. I'd like to introduce you all to our new Developer Relations Manager, Marco Frisina. He's been organising GameMaker meetups all around the world in 2022, including sessions in Italy, Poland, UK, Germany, Argentina and Brazil.
Hello there, my name is Marco Frisina. I'm GameMaker's Developer Relations Manager. I'm the liaison between GameMaker and GameMaker's key developers and strategic partners. I represent our key partners internally to ensure their needs are being heard and addressed. The work and collaboration with our partners is important to make sure we are always on the right track in building on the needs of our developers, so that all developers, irrespective of their coding ability, continue to have the best and fastest tool suite at their disposal to cast their ideas into great games.
One of the many reasons why we choose to use GameMaker is the ease of use and porting it into different consoles. The fact that we can get our game up and running on a console in pretty much less than a week is just incredible, and something that makes making games so much faster and more fun. It's something that allows us to experiment and pivot if things are working or not working in such a fast way that I don't think any other platform out there can match. It's one of the many reasons why we're going to continue to use GameMaker for the years to come.
GameMaker in 2023 is in probably the best shape I've seen it in a while. It feels like pretty much every monthly update there's a new feature that people have wanted to see in GameMaker for years, so it's really cool to see so much energy from the team. It's really going through a bit of a quiet renaissance, I think, at the moment. I say quiet because I think it's always kind of been like the secret tool, like you'd surprise people with, like, oh, well, that was made in GameMaker, and you'd be like, yeah, and people would probably they'd be impressed, but they'd always think, well, I bet it was really hard to make that in GameMaker. And the wild truth is that it's usually a lot easier and faster to make in GameMaker, and it keeps getting easier and faster to make stuff in GameMaker. So that's really cool.
Users don't have to log in to start GameMaker anymore. Without an account, you can make your games and test them locally. You will need to log in to create executables and to upload your games, but you can make and test your games without ever making an account. This new visual editor allows you to create particle effects inside GameMaker and preview them in real time. You can then use these particles in rooms, sequences, or create and control them at runtime. We are adding greater versatility to fonts within GameMaker, making it easier than ever to add effects. This update will roll out over a few monthly builds, introducing dynamic text that can scale and have a variety of effects applied to them, including outline, glow, and drop shadows. Modern graphics techniques require a richer set of options for textures than we have historically provided, which is why we are now supporting floating point formats for rendering to surfaces and reading from them. This makes it easier to support high dynamic range or HDR rendering, and will lead us to supporting normal maps and depth maps for sprites. We are continuing to invest in our audio solution, ensuring that it's available for all targets, and bringing the ability to set a loop section within an audio track, so you can have a specific part of your sound playing on repeat. We are planning on adding many more audio filters to GameMaker, and we've been polling the community to determine which filters we want to access first. Parametric EQ, compressor, and chorus will all be coming over the next few months. With this, our goal was to simplify collision code, and we have delivered a one-line function that might make Shaun's collision code obsolete. Many people have asked us for a way to import SVG files into GameMaker, and we have taken an initial step. We've adopted the ImageMagick library, which allows us to expand the import feature of the sprite editor. Right now, this allows you to import your SVGs, although they are still converted to bitmaps. We'll be improving this later in the year to fully support those SVG graphics.
I've always been very passionate about game design, but not so much programming. GameMaker, more so than any engine I've ever used, allows me to take my ideas and turn them into games with the least amount of friction.
In March, we released an update to our long-term stable build. We're committed to keeping this release up to date with SDK updates and submission blocking bug fixes as we originally promised. We're introducing SDK updates for a number of platforms, including Android, iOS, GDK, Xbox, Switch, and PlayStation. While we're not bringing any new features to LTS, we are looking to ensure that we can keep templates and tutorials compatible with the current LTS. To make that happen, we're planning to integrate a few new language features which will enable us to take advantage of the new functions. These will be features that have proven themselves in the monthly build and that we're confident won't affect the stability of the IDE or the runtime. Moving collide, string functions, and new extension options will be available in the LTS update.
All subscribers can now build from the command line, so anyone can use CI build tools and create target executables and packages outside the IDE. All enterprise subscribers will get access to the GameMaker runtime for all platforms later in the year. We're currently working out the details of all of this, but we'll have more announcements soon.
What I like about GameMaker is that you can rapidly prototype a game mechanic that you've had in your head and see it on screen in seconds. And when you have that idea more fleshed out, you can create a full commercial experience with all the range of features that you might want to have on Steam, Nintendo Switch, Xbox or PlayStation. Recently I made use of GameMaker's new filters and effect layers in my jam game HANA Desynchronized, which I'm hoping will do well. And at Checkered Ink we ported some of our older games from Windows and Opera GX to Nintendo Switch, including Tama Cannon and Non-Stop Space Bird. GameMaker's come a long way in the last few years and I'm really excited to see where it goes next.
We announced last year that we're redesigning the code editor, which is scheduled to come into beta in Q3 this year. Initially, the new code editor will be behind in a preference system and only enabled if you so choose. The UI redesign in the code editor is now hosted within a full screen window, allowing access to objects, events, and functions within the code file. New objects and new events can now be created from within the code editor itself, so there's little need to move between the workspace and the code editor. All syntax highlighting and IntelliSense support is being moved to a language server, which gives us extra flexibility and allows us to support more languages within the code editor. This means that we can now handle shader languages, such as GLSL, HLSL, and etc. with IntelliSense, and provide for expanded JSON and XML support as well. We're also supporting Markdown within Notes and introducing side-by-side preview support to make it easier to see how changes affect the formatting. We'll be supporting open sourcing of our language server for GML. And since Visual Studio Code uses the same protocol, users will be able to use this within Visual Studio Code as well. Any language server that uses the standard protocol will be usable within GameMaker, and we will have configuration that allows users to set those up so that GameMaker can use those while you're editing. Later in the year, we'll be making further changes to the IDE, mainly focused around Room Editor and how IDE windows behave. We'll be removing enforced layer types and adding the ability to group them, making it easier to see objects have creation code on them, and allowing more flexibility with tile sets, among other improvements. As well as improving the overall workflow of GameMaker, we're looking to reduce the amount of operating system Chrome in the IDE, tightening these things up and maximising the usable space. We'll be ensuring that the IDE makes use of child windows, making more windows dockable and taking advantage of our snappable panels, and other areas around the IDE.
I've chosen this middleware for three main reasons. One, it is fully dedicated to making 2D games and simple enough. Two, it is versatile enough to allow me to make the kind of games I want. For example, my game Brock is a unique blend of point and click with beat 'em up, a genre mix which wouldn't have been possible with a more specialized engine. 3, it has many platform exports. In particular, for me, the console ports are crucial because a lot of my revenue comes from porting GameMaker games from other developers to consoles.
We've been doing a lot of refactoring work within IDE to allow for user-created IDE plugins. Rest assured, we haven't forgotten the promises that we made at the start of GMS2. We're currently moving all the IDE code into plugins, keeping a minimal core for the IDE, and maintain the file formats and serialization that orchestrates the plugins that do all the real work. Sharp-eyed users will have seen that all the most recent additions have been done as external assemblies away from the main core of the IDE. Most recently added Particle Editor and Feather are both implemented as plugins. And as mentioned earlier, we plan on moving Feather into a language server and open sourcing it at the same time. Language servers will live within the runtime rather than IDE and will have a different life cycle to the IDE. We're moving our language translations for the IDE into plugin and open sourcing those on GitHub in Q2. These will be open for community contributions. We'll be looking to recruit volunteers to oversee and administer these contributions to ensure they're translated accurately. This will include both the manual and IDE for all languages. We want to ensure that we've covered the majority of use cases before we can allow users to create their own plugins. We expect to have this work completed by the end of this year with a closed beta period. We'll have invited users to create plugins. We vastly expanded our supported extensions last year, and we're looking to release even more in 2023. Modding has always been a popular request for GameMaker games, and while we currently offer limited support for modding, we're looking to expand that support over the coming months. We're adding an extension that will allow users to connect their games to Mod.io. There's a popular website that supports a range of game mods, including simple DSC options and more sophisticated user-created levels and data. While we have been expanding and extending our audio capabilities within the engine, we know that several users wish to have Fmod support, which we plan to add as an extension this year in the second half. Machinations allows users to create simulations of game systems and economies, then model how large groups of users will be affected by changes to that system. We're planning on providing both an IDE plugin and extension that will allow users to create machination simulations and integrate them within their projects. This will allow users to visualize how changes affect outcomes from the Machinations website and use them at runtime.
I think GameMaker is living the golden age right now. After the 2.3 update, it's been amazing. The inclusion of methods, constructors, all that good stuff is what allows me to make what I do today.
We went over the high-level functionality of prefabs in the last year's update, and now it's time to take a closer look. A prefab is essentially a GameMaker project which can contain any number of GameMaker resources and can have defined, editable parameters. The prefab library will be the new window within GameMaker that displays the built-in prefabs and user-created prefabs. Users can then drag prefabs from the library into rooms or sequences without adding the prefab contents to their projects. The compiler will then pull the required components using the resource reference when exporting or testing your game. This keeps the prefab separate from the project, allowing for even greater reuse. It also allows a prefab to be updated without having to change the project. On top of that, we'll be using the package manager to allow prefab references to be kept at a specific version or updated when the original prefab is updated. We'll allow user-specified servers to be added, allowing you to maintain your own instance of the package manager and have your own local packages which you can share with others. One of the most requested features within GameMaker is a system for specifying user interface. We intended to make good use of our prefab system to offer users a base set of customizable UI elements within their games. This will start with various elements such as buttons, progress bars, input fields, etc., and it will be expanded over time to include all options that you might want to use within your game. In order to make adaptable user interfaces, we'll also be adding some new functionality, namely the ability to have one or more global GUI layers and the ability to use these within any room of your choosing. We'll be adding in flex panels, allowing you to dynamically organize assets within the area. This, coupled with the ability to add instances to the GUI layer, will mean you can create responsive user interfaces that work across multiple resolutions.
I have been using GameMaker for 6 years now, and over this time there have been so many small improvements that it would be impossible to list them all. While developing Virgo vs the Zodiac and Keylocker, the GameMaker language has improved so much and added a ton of new features that make our lives easier. What I love the most about GameMaker is how it does the heavy lifting for you, so you can focus all your energies on being creative. The easy workflow enables me to be efficient and quick with my work without getting bogged down in small details and annoyances. Without GameMaker, I would not be where I am today.
GameMaker from versions 1 through 8 all used the same architecture, where the IDE saved a project that the runner could take and compile every time the game was run. This was simple and worked well for single platforms, but it didn't work so well for cross-platforms. We changed the architecture for GameMaker Studio and introduced a compile step that meant that any resource could be optimized for the target device. This meant we could eliminate those long load times and make everything more efficient and consistent. Cross-platform execution was much easier, allowing us to run the code more efficiently for the target platform. This still left us with a few problems like the bottlenecks caused by the IDE creating the packaging for the target platform. But with GMS2, we moved the target platform packaging into the runtime, which became our Igor tool, and generally improved the isolation between IDE and runtime. In retrospect, syntax highlighting and IntelliSense components really should have been in the runtime, so we could update the language and keep the components independent from the IDE. In our new toolchain, we have moved the syntax highlighting and IntelliSense components into the runtime and componentized the runtime even further. Now individual runtime components are libraries that may or may not be required to create the game. Looking deeper into the new toolchain, we have various tools that do different jobs with the GML compiler that generates the intermediate VM2 code. And we use the industry standard LLVM suite of tools to generate native code obj or .o files before a standard linker takes the user code and the runtime libraries to create a native executable. This setup is how most compiler toolchains work and makes it possible to incorporate third-party tools and libraries easily. Native code extensions will just become libraries that are pulled in this fashion, whether statically or dynamically. GML extensions will also be compiled and treated in the same way. In the new toolchain, all games will be native executables, removing the requirement to have both VM and YYC options.
So now that we've run through the technical side of things, let's talk about what that actually means for our users. Starting soon, the desktop and web components of GameMaker's new runtime will be available to a small number of closed beta participants. We'll be expanding this over time until we're ready to move on to open beta later this year. Over the course of the beta period, our primary focus will be on providing a compatibility layer between the current GMS2 runtime and the new runtime. This will allow existing games to use the new runtime with minimal changes. Once functionality and performance are at least equal to the GMS2 runtime, we'll then begin to deliver our new libraries, which will implement the new subsystems of the new runtime. Outside of the closed beta period, the new runtime will be available for everyone on the gx.games target. The new runtime marks the next evolution of GameMaker. As such, you'll need a subscription to access it for other platforms. We'll be recruiting for the closed beta in the next few weeks, so if you're interested, have the time to actively participate and provide frequent feedback, keep your eyes open for an announcement.
First of all, it's really clear to me how much GameMaker has impacted me till now. Back when I started in 2020, it was just a hobby, but now has become my whole career. I have developed many games and released them on big platforms like Steam, Nintendo Switch, and others. And I think all of that has to do to how GameMaker handles making games. It's really straightforward and easy to understand, like no other engine. And I think that's what it makes it making games be for everyone and fun for everyone. Especially now that GameMaker has been along with Opera GX, making game jams really often, doing meetups with developers across the entire world as we had here in Brazil at the BGS. And giving attention to us creators, which makes us feel part of a big and amazing community, which I'm proud to be part of.
We've just been to GDC in San Francisco, where we gave a talk on how community and modding lead to more players. We immediately followed that up with a trip to PAX East to meet lots of indie developers and publishers. Later this year, we'll be back at the biggest gaming convention in the world, Gamescom in Cologne, Germany. Come say hello! We are going to be getting a lot more involved with the GameMaker Discord and making it our official place to gather feedback and talk directly to the community. If you're not a part of the GameMaker Discord yet, then now's the time to join. We've already had 3 GameMaker meetups this year and plan to hold 12 more in Italy, Argentina, Brazil, Poland, Japan, Germany, and the UK. Finally, I'd like to introduce our new education liaison, Frank Moody. He'll be promoting GameMaker to teachers and educators across the States, bringing GameMaker to as many schools as possible.
Hello, my name is Frank Moody, and I'm the educational liaison for GameMaker. I believe game design and GameMaker are the perfect tools for introducing a whole community of learners to STEM subjects who may otherwise avoid or feel intimidated by math and engineering. By placing game design within the humanities curriculum, students have the opportunity to use digital tools in ways that are authentic and promote deeper understanding.
Hey Ryan from Super Rare Games here. We've published original games made in GameMaker like Grapple Dog and Post Void, and also many physical releases of existing GameMaker made games, and we're pitching for many more, always are. I grew up with small indie games made in GameMaker, have fond memories of them, and honestly it's just gone up and up from there, genuinely. The sort of stuff we're seeing, the creativity, the amazing games we're seeing is increasing rapidly. To me, these games have always signified the grassroots heart and core of the indie game making scene. We're seeing even more game maker titles also find commercial success now, which is amazing. They always deserve that. It's a fantastic tool run by genuinely one of the most warm, friendly, helpful teams of people I've ever been able to work with. So yeah, here's to many more years of working with GameMaker and publishing really cool GameMaker games. Excited to see what the future holds for the engine.
We've been experimenting internally with various technologies that can improve workflows and expand users' abilities. Last year, we released our multiplayer beta and received a lot of fantastic feedback. One of the most important things we learned from the beta was that to implement multiplayer properly, we will need to wait for the new runtime. Our current runtime isn't set up to handle the level of complexity, and we need a cleaner system on which to implement this. We're pausing the work for the moment, and we'll pick it up again with the new runtime next year. To be clear, anything that we do in the multiplayer space will be open to all platforms. We'll be open sourcing the server components so that anyone can run their own server. Hot off the heels of Opera's recently announced partnership with OpenAI, we've been looking into a number of different AI models and experimenting with systems that allow AI queries and results to be incorporated directly into users' projects. These are very experimental at the moment, but we've been excited by the support AI can offer users in generating code, creating graphical placeholders, and even allowing image in painting, adding extra detail to an image, or outpainting, which is removing elements from images. The improvements taking place within the AI sphere are breathtaking, and we're aiming to provide these opportunities within GM over the coming months. We want to be clear that as GameMaker explores the potential of AI, we are 100% committed to avoiding any uses or integrations that quash individual expression or that draw on copyrighted materials. We're interested in AI that complements and simplifies your work, not that replaces or steals it. In collaboration with Opera's cloud gaming team, we're also in the process of investigating a system for hosting a new marketplace. We're still in the very early stages of this process, but we hope to have more details to share later in 2023. GameMaker, to me, is all about the ease of use and simplicity. It's taking a complex subject, a complex thing with computer game technology, where it's very technical, but then makes it approachable. Breaks it down into simple concepts that are easy to teach, easy to learn. GameMaker's a learning tool. It was originally designed that way, and we keep that in mind as we come to new features. We're constantly asked, we'd like to be able to do this, we'd like to be able to add that complexity to the tool. And we're always evaluating it in terms of how easy is that to understand, how easy is that to use, and how approachable is the overall product. Thanks for staying with us to the end. We really look forward to seeing what you'll make with GameMaker. Please share your projects with us in the forums, Discord, or Twitter.